Welcome to edition 7 of All Killa, No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we do start the podcast, our usual disclaimer, just to let you know we are doing this podcast because we are interested in serial killers. We're not hero worshipping them. We don't want you to go out and commit any murders, and we're very sorry if anyone you know has been killed. And the reason we do this podcast is, as I say, a mutual interest, and as long as we're doing this podcast, we're not writing to them in prison. This episode we are focusing on Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. We don't actually have a nickname for these serial killers, do we?
No, they're the first ones we've done that haven't got like a badass name.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and come up with one.
We'll see how it goes, and we'll come up with something.
Cabin cunts.
Cabin cunts.
They were a horrible pair.
Willseyville wankers.
I don't know. Let's shoot the shit. If you've got something better, send it to us on Twitter. So they think that these two guys killed 25 people, including two families.
Yeah, including 2 entire families.
Yeah, that's bad, isn't it?
That's really grim, actually. And it's such a weird story, the pair of them, how they ended up meeting each other. It always amazes me how people's paths cross.
Yeah, I always think that as well. That, like, what are the chances that... Well, it's like when we talked about Myra Hindley and Ian Brady, like, what are the... Because they probably would have been horrible bastards separately, but when they come together, like, you know, it's...
All hell breaks loose.
Yeah, basically. So, we're going to talk about them both. We're going to talk about Charles Ng first, and then we'll talk about Leonard Lake, and then we'll get into their beautiful relationship that they had together, which consisted of chopping people up and then burning them. So, Charles Ng is a bit of a... See, I don't think he's the mental one. I think he's just a proper twat.
Yeah, and I think he had so much potential to get into really bad trouble.
Yeah.
He was born in 1960 in Hong Kong to a wealthy Chinese executive and his wife.
Bad news already, innit?
Yeah. Harshly disciplined. And it was one of those situations, whatever Charles did wasn't good enough for his father. But unfortunately, what Charles used to do was thieving, arson, and just being a general nuisance by the sounds of things. And his father used to beat him.
It sounds like, if I had a kid who was setting fire to things and stealing, I would find it very hard not to crack him one.
Yeah, you'd give... Sometimes, even out of frustration, some kids need a good kicking. Right? And I think Charles Ng, from what we know, he was a loner as well. He was your typical weirdo, I think. Yeah. And it got so bad that his parents, when he was arrested for shoplifting when he was 15, and his parents by that point were just like, oh, do you know what, Charles? Just go away. And they sent him to Bentham Grammar School, which is in Lancashire.
Yeah.
So he came to England for a bit.
That's going to sort someone out. We've had enough of it. What can we do? We'll have to send them to Lancashire. That's the only thing that can cure them now. But he was because he was expelled loads, and he ended up being expelled after like a month from the Lancashire school, didn't he?
Yeah, for stealing as per usual and writing sexually explicit letters to his teacher. So what they did, the reaction to this, his parents, didn't bring him home. They said, right, we're sending you to San Francisco to live with some family.
Where all of that kind of stuff is fine.
Yep, second nature to that, some San Franciscans.
Now for homework, can you please write me an overtly sexual letter? 15, he was arrested for shoplifting, and he really loved shoplifting. I think,
kleptomaniac.
He really loved it, didn't he? He was like the Winona Ryder of the serial killers.
Though it got worse because when he was 18, when he was in San Francisco, he was involved in a hit-and-run accident.
He hit someone, didn't he?
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm laughing at getting hit and then someone run off, but just imagine it the other way around. We wouldn't be here doing this podcast. But he then, to escape prosecution for this, joined the Marines, the American Marines, with false documents claiming that he was born in America.
He makes so many bizarre, when people lie to get themselves out of trouble, and you're like, why did you do that? And you're like, I don't know, but just like, oh shit, I might get done for hit and run. Better join the army then. That's the only thing.
The whole timeline of events so far, it's massive reactions to the thing like, you've been shoplifting, go to England. You've written this really pervy letter, get to San Francisco. Oh, I've hit a man in a car and I've run off. I've got to join the Marines.
And change my name. Yeah, there's no half measures with him. But I quite like that about him. Oh, and so while he was in the army, he got in trouble with the FBI for stealing thousands of pounds worth of weapons from a base in Hawaii because he went missing apparently for 3 days. The guy that Leonard Lake, his partner in crime, was going out with, said she looked out in the yard one night and Charles Ng turned up with his pickup truck full of crates, and then they both did a dance together in the moonlight. which is dancing does come up from time to time with serial killers. Cause, well, he was a murderer rather than a serial killer, but Ed Gein used to dance under the moonlight as well. So I don't know what it is about serial killers that just means that they got to the rhythm, but quite a few of them are dancers.
When you feel the pull of the moon, you can't help but move your feet.
I'd love to see that edition of Strictly Come Dancing.
Serial Killer Week.
Yeah, Ted Bundy would be amazing. He'd win because all the women would be phoning him through. So yeah, they met through Survivalist mag in about 1983. So I didn't even know that these existed, but it just shows there's a magazine for everything.
Survivalists, because I had to actually look up what survivalists were, and hysterical, I think, would be the best word to describe them. So they think, obviously, they're frightened of nuclear holocausts and...
Yeah, basically you think that the end of the world is always coming. So, like, if you ever go to a survivor's house, you'll only ever be eating food from tins. That's the way it works.
And water in massive vats.
Yeah, so they met through this magazine, and then after only a month of knowing each other, they started killing, which means that they must have nearly had the conversation on the first night.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're going out with someone, it's... it's weird if after a month you say, I love you, let alone, should we go and kill a family and eat a baby? Like, it's utterly bizarre.
Very odd. But he was dishonourably discharged from the Marines, Charles Ng. Isn't the Marines just like the Navy, but dead hard?
The Marines is like meant to be like the topmost elite. This is why I don't know how he blagged his way in, because it doesn't seem like Mr. Health and Fitness. And how they didn't check that his papers were false.
Plus those massive glasses that just indicate that he must be really short-sighted or something. Oh, I'm here to join the Marines. Oh, come in, Charles. Yeah, that is quite weird. So he lived in Wilseyville with Leonard Lake and his girlfriend, Cricket.
She was a wrong one as well, but we'll get to her
in a bit.
So yeah, after a month they started killing each other. So we'll talk of killing people. We'll talk about Leonard Lake, because I think he is the psycho of the pair.
Without a doubt.
He's the really wrong one, and Charles Ng is a wrong one, but also easily led.
Easily led and slightly pathetic.
Yeah,
I think a bit of a pathetic figure. Leonard Lake was born in 1945 in San Francisco, and classic serial killer background, I think. His mother abandoned him, and him and his sisters were sent to live with his maternal grandmother. While he was living with his grandmother, she encouraged Leonard to take nude photographs of his sisters, which did lead to an obsession with pornography. And it's such a strange... And he was also in the Marines as well. He did 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. He was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder, and he had to have psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy is Freudian as well, so there's no way... If he had psychotherapy for a schizoid personality disorder, and we already know that his nana was making him take nude pictures of his sisters, it's not going to take much fucking detective work to find out why he's the way he is it?
Well, this is it. But it's sort of a weird background. After all this, he decided to join a hippie commune.
He used to also, don't forget, he used to dissolve mice in acid.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry, how did I forget that? He used to take nude pictures of his sisters, and he used to dissolve mice in acid, which was a big thing that he was into. He used to catch the mice and then dip them in sort of different chemicals to see how they dissolve. Live, I would assume, because this is Leonard Lake we're talking about. So from this, he then decides, I want to live a hippie lifestyle, and he went to live in a commune for 8 years, which... I'm going to be honest with you, that would be enough to tip me over the edge and send me on a murder spree.
I love deodorant. I couldn't get through it.
I want my hairbrush. It's these two sort of juxtapositions with him. On the one hand, he's completely bonkers.
Yeah, sadist.
And then on the other hand, he's like, oh, peace and love, man.
Yeah.
Live with the hippies. It's quite strange.
There must be a Venn diagram where they cross over somewhere, and the middle crossover point is liking to do weird shit in bed.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Well, actually, when you think about it, maybe it's a bit cult-like, isn't it, hippie commune?
Yeah.
Look at the Mansons as well.
Yeah, I was thinking the Mansons.
So it's a fine line between peace and love and
Pieces
burying your
people.
neighbours. Yeah.
Yeah, so he lived there for 8 years. He got married in 1975, and then they got divorced when she found out how into pornos and S&M and making his own amateur porn that he was, so she binned him off. And was it, you were saying his sister?
Well, yeah, his sister's been interviewed, and she said she thinks this may have been the trigger for him to just send him into a downward spiral, because he loved his wife, And then when she left him, he started to hate all women.
He loved his wife so much that he was banging other women and tying them up. And also, this had come from his sister that we know he used to take naked pictures of.
Yeah, that was...
So I'd say her reasoning is slightly off-kilter, but there we go. In 1981, he married Cricket. What was her real name? Is it
Clara Lynn Ballars?
That's it, yeah. This is brilliant. This is the most beautiful, poetic way two people have ever met. He met her when she was working at a fairground. Okay, that's okay. So far, so good. She was in charge of an attraction where people would pay to have their picture taken with a unicorn that was actually a goat with a horn sellotaped to its head.
A tiny, tiny, disappointing unicorn.
I suppose it's just ridiculous. And I love that people would pay to go and see that. And even that they have their picture taken, because sometimes I've heard about, a friend of mine was saying that he tried to take pictures in the old waxworks in Madame Tussauds and they wouldn't let them do it before they went in. And they were like, what? And they're like, no pictures allowed. And when he said that he got in, they were all so shit. He realised that that's why they never let people take pictures, because if you showed it to anyone else, they would be like, never go there. That is terrible.
Was it the infamous Louis Tussauds?
I believe it was Louis Tussauds.
It used to be in Blackpool. It's now an actual, I think, Madame Tussauds. And I think it's got a bit better. But Louis Tussauds, I never went, but I saw photographs of some of the stuff in there. Absolutely hilarious. I think some of them were just a case of, a celebrity died, so they just took the wig off that and put it on another and made it, I don't know, Michael Jackson or something.
Yeah.
Really, really
Can't we just make John Travolta brown? Yeah, that's fine.
That'll do.
And I love those. I love cheap waxworks where everyone looks like they've had a stroke and is allergic to fish.
I think that's my future, actually. I say I'm allergic to fish.
So they ended up moving to... Cricket got bored of him after a while and binned him off. But they moved to a cabin that she owned in Wilseyville, and this is where all the horrible shit started happening. So they started their abductions, and all the abductions that they did apparently were people that they knew. They weren't really strangers, they were people that they got to know.
Yeah, first of all, it was people that they did know. The first murder was Leonard Lake's brother and his friend.
Yeah.
So talk about doing it close to home. And then
That's
there was neighbours
brave,
killed, and then
it?
people who answered adverts. Because even then you can say, oh, I've got somebody coming to look at this, or, this bloke from, I don't know, Calaveras County is coming to look at the camcorder. So it's really sort of taking a massive risk, isn't it? I don't think he cared, but...
No, I think they were too mad to care. But also, with that family, Leonard Lake's family, right, so when you're growing up, your nana's making you take naked pictures of your sister. Then you know that one of your brothers dissolves mice in various different chemicals. And then your other brother goes, I'm just going to go and visit Leonard, and then never comes back. And you go, well, you know what Donald's like, he's such a free spirit. I'm sure we'll see him in 1992.
He's probably joined one of those communes like Leonard did.
Commune or the army, which apparently in the 70s are the only two choices for you. But how they got discovered was really weird, actually, because it's really, like a lot of these serial killers, it's something really mundane that catches them up. So it was actually old Charles Ng and his sticky fingers that got them caught.
He stole a vice from a sort of hardware store near where they lived. In the panic, he threw the vice in the car and he ran off because he knew they were onto him. So he did a runner. It's very good at the old, it does hit and run, thieve and run. He's off, you can't see him. So then Leonard Lake apparently came down and said, look, I've paid for the vice, nothing to see
nothing to see
here. It's my house you want to go to. Then they opened the car and they found a gun with an illegal silencer on it, which obviously set alarm bells ringing in their heads. So they arrested Leonard Lake and took him to the police station.
Well, they asked for a driver's licence, so he gave them one with Robin Stapley on, and then they saw that the car was registered to Lonnie Bond. These are all victims. And there was also papers, a receipt in the glove compartment made out to Charles Gunner, who's also a victim there. So they're like, right, something's going on here. We're going to take you down to the station and ask some questions. So they took him in for questioning.
I mean, at this point, I'm sure they didn't think it was a whole load of murders. I think they just thought it was fraud.
Yeah.
Or something. So when they get to the station, they're interviewing Leonard Lake. And Leonard Lake asked the officer, could I have a glass of water and a bit of paper, please, and a pencil? So the officer gets them and then leaves him for...
He said, are you going to write your confession?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I'm just writing a note to my wife.
Just a plain hangman. And he goes out, the police officer goes out, and what Leonard decides to do, and it's something he's always planned and he's always prepared for, commits suicide with a cyanide pill.
How badass is that?
Yeah.
So James Bond, isn't it? He wrote a note to his wife, put it in the top pocket of his jacket, and said, "My name is Leonard Lake, and my partner is Charles Ing." And he said his middle name, and it's pronounced Cheetah, so Charles Cheetah Ing. And he said, "All this for a bloody vice," he said. And then, which, I mean, that's a pun in itself, isn't it? My vice that I use to tighten the grip on my victims, and also my vice for killing people. You know what I'm like. So,
or it could be a really good, like, a new saying that sounds like an old saying, like, "Got all this for a bloody vice."
And then he got these cyanide pills that were taped to his lapel, and then chewed them down, and was brain dead, and then stayed alive for 4 days, and then died. So I just think that is the most badass way to go out.
Yeah, and I kind of think it's one of those things like saying you're going to do it. Like,
yeah.
I've always got these cyanide pills, and if something goes down, I'm the first one out, right? I think it's one thing saying that, and most people, I think, would go, "Oh, shit." But he was just like, "No, I said I was going to do it, and this is it."
Yeah, I've actually got a little bit of respect for him for doing that.
It's just...
But already, like, do these people never examine their own lifestyle? Like, you know, if you've got to the point where you're wandering around with cyanide taped into your lapel, you go back to university, start again. Do you know? Go to the Open University and do a course in sports
You'd
science.
be like, "I don't think things are going the way I planned. This is not what I anticipated in my third decade of existence. This isn't right." Yeah, you'd think of, but I just said, in those days, where did you get cyanide from?
I don't know.
Where did you get these things from?
Probably if it was like the 70s, it was the kind of thing that were like kept in school labs that people used to steal.
Yeah, probably. That's quite true.
But there we go. So his suicide and his kind of giving away the names led them to his ranch, which is the cabin in Wilseyville where they'd been doing all their killings. And then I don't think the police were nearly prepared for what they found there. So they got a warrant for the ranch, which apparently I found a brilliant quote about it on a website. It described it as a place of whoredom, flim-flammery and wife-swapping. Sounds fucking brilliant. Centre Parks would get a lot more people going there.
Yeah, I think if that was Butlins' tagline.
That is Butlins though, isn't it? It's like swingers weekends and tribute bands.
Although my parents did meet at Butlins, they weren't on holiday there. They were working there at Butlins on Barry Island.
Oh, really?
So if it wasn't for Butlins, I wouldn't exist.
Oh,
so
what a
take
lovely
that how you
story.
will. You either love Butlins or you don't like Butlins.
I went to see Mr. Blobby for my, I think it was like 10th birthday in Butlins in Pwllheli, I think it was. And all I remember about the day is we were in a cabin and my mum was getting changed and I was sort of knocking around by the door, and I opened the door and like had the door wide open while she was getting changed, and she turned around and smacked me, and I was like, "This is my birthday." If I was anyone else, I'd have killed 9 people because of that. But
just that one trigger moment.
Yeah, that's all I remember from this. I don't remember Mr. Blobby or anything. I just remember being furious that it was my birthday and my mum had smacked me. So when they turned up to the ranch, they found a spray of blood on the ceiling, and there was a vehicle with bullet holes in it. Now, how they got to the ranch was really peculiar, because Cricket, the girlfriend, was like, "Oh, I'll have to show you where it is, but it's really hard to get to."
Yeah.
And then they met her the next day. They're like, "Oh, meet me by this junction." And then they went, "Okay, cool." So the police went there and met her. And she just took the next left and it was there. And they're like, "This is really easy to find. Why did she say that?" And apparently she had been down there, hadn't she?
Yeah, with Leonard Lake's mother, who I don't actually think...
Why is she back on the scene all of a sudden?
Yeah, well, precisely, good question. Jeremy Kyle would have been all over this. They went up to the cabin, and Leonard Lake's mother said that Cricket was putting loads of items in boxes, videotapes and various things, and then she didn't say what she did with them, but obviously she got, tried to dispose of the evidence. I initially thought it would have been, videos of the victims, but as it transpired, they were just videos of her, weren't they?
Yeah, they were just like homemade pornos. So she was just getting rid of. She was, for once in her life, she was having a little bit of shame and dignity. So being like, "Oh well, it's all right to do them and have some strangers watching, but I don't want the police force.
I don't want the officer seeing my bum.
Oh, especially I've still got Christmas weight on. Don't be looking at them. So yeah, she went and she basically got rid of the videos that she was in, but obviously that is a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, which she never got pulled up for, but we will talk about that later. So they went to this ranch. It was clear that he was a survivalist. He had a bunker, he had weapons, and he'd written a plan out of how when the world ended, he was going to try and repopulate it. Now, these people rear their head every now and then, and it's always the people who want to repopulate the earth are the people who should be at the bottom of the freaking list. They're people with schizoid personalities, no teeth, and no hair. And
who take photographs of the sisters.
Yeah, I think I'm the best person to repopulate the earth. Well, I beg to differ, Leonard. So I got obsessed with for a while with looking at websites about the rapture. You know, they're always obsessed with the end of the world coming. And there's websites you can go on, and they give you a list of things like what to pack in case of a rapture. You know, like when you go to hospital when you're having your baby, and they're like, well, you should put in your baby bag. It's exactly the same for the rapture. And it was like, you must have a sharp knife, plenty of, like, so many gallons of clean water, bring a nail brush, just in case. Because I tell you what, God doesn't like, and that's dirty nails.
No, you straight out. There's no heaven for you if you've got dirty nails.
But he was obsessed with this, the idea of basically the world ending. He would stay there in his bunker with these women that he had as prisoners, and he called this whole idea was called Project Miranda.
Yes.
Where he would repopulate the earth with middle-class women from England who fall over a lot. Hey! But he was inspired by a book, wasn't he?
Yeah, The Collector by John Fawkes. This book, it's about a man who becomes obsessed with a woman called Miranda, and he then plots to kidnap her, keep her in a room on her own for him, basically have her as a slave, because he's so obsessed with her and he wants her for himself. Now, this book has been made into a film as well. It's quite a popular book. I haven't read it. But 2 other serial killers cite this book as an influence as well as Leonard Lake. Leonard Lake had a copy of The Collector. Apparently he was obsessed with it because it was about, he identified with it because the bloke in it was a bit of a loner, and you know, he had these ideals about women. Christopher Wilder, another serial killer who killed young girls, apparently was influenced by the book. And Robert Berdella.
Didn't he have it on him when he...
Robert Berdella did, right. But he killed men. He tortured and killed young men.
Well, he's not learned anything then, because he's not repopulating the earth using like basic biology. Stay on at school 2 months more and you would have worked that one out.
He just wants the torture and the keeping bit. He's not interested in the rest of it, is he? But
that's ridiculous, because that's basically using a book as an excuse for your behaviour. That's like me going, well, I really love the hungry caterpillar and that's why I'm now a size 14. It's not the book's fault, is it?
I think as well, saying, you know, Robert Berdella had a copy on him when he was arrested or whatever. Whatever you've got on you when you get arrested, it can become sinister. If I got arrested for murder and had a packet of polo mints in my pocket, then like that's
holes, like, just like the one she put in her victims.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? But it's, you know, Mark Chapman who shot John Lennon had Catcher in the Rye in his pocket or something, and it's the book's fault. If it wasn't that book, it'd be something else.
Yeah.
So you can't put too much, but Leonard Lake obviously did take a bit more notice of the book because of...
You'd be gutted as well if you wrote a book that ended up being like a handbook for serial killers.
All that hard work.
Yeah, to make this seminal piece, and they're like, oh really? All the weirdos have latched onto it. Brilliant, fantastic. That's going to be banned in 6 states.
It's astonishing, isn't it? Like, you would be thoroughly upset, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, when psychos champion your book.
And Leonard Lake's killing people because of it.
There was a brilliant, because he had this ledger that Leonard Lake would keep a really detailed ledger of all the torture and all the different people he killed and how he did it. And there was a line in this book that he wrote that said, if you love something, let it go. If it doesn't come back, hunt it down and kill it. Which I think is like one of the most gracious improvements on a cliched saying I've ever heard.
You can imagine a sort of father saying to his daughter who's just been dumped, that kind of, yeah, if you love something, let it go.
If it doesn't come back, hunt it down and kill it.
Yeah, I think that's quite...
I think that's what they should be putting on t-shirts and key rings.
I saw a magnet at a friend's house, and it was on the fridge, and it said, love for a daughter is like a rose. Every day it grows and grows. And I just thought, and then it gets out of hand and it has to be cut back. It was just such
Covered in thorns.
Yeah, such a sinister magnet. Just looking at it going, it made me feel really uncomfortable. I was like, oh, that's a nice magnet. Yeah, my mum and dad got it for me. Oh, yeah. Fred and Rose, your mum and dad, are they?
So Leonard Lake was really interesting, actually, because he was really good friends with Charles Ng almost straight away, which is weird because apparently he was really racist.
Yeah, but
and
only
Charles
against
Ng's Chinese.
the blacks and the Hispanics.
That's brilliant, isn't it? I love selective racism.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're not one of them, so you're all right by me. So yeah, they think his first victim was his brother Donald. He also killed his best man from his first wedding, which was a guy called Charles Gunner, and he assumed his identity. He was also really rich because Charles Ng was arrested and he was given bail of $30,000 and he paid it, this Charles guy, so he must have been really rich. Cricket, the girlfriend, referred to him as that fat man, and he used to knock about on the ranch apparently until he just went missing one day. Which serves him right, because if you know that they're doing killings, which he definitely did, don't think that you're like, oh, it's alright, I'm in with them.
I think Cricket might have said one day, Leonard, I've had enough of that fat man. And then that was it.
I wonder what book that's in. They also killed the closest next door neighbours, and this is really weird, it was a whole family of them, the O'Connors. Basically, the woman had seen Leonard Lake burying a body, and was saying to people like, they're not right there, I'm sure I saw him burying a body in the woods at night. So rather than calling the police, she asked Robin Stapley to say, which is fine. But if you remember from early in the story, that is one of the false IDs that Leonard Lake had. So he just killed them all. The friend that was invited around to protect them, the mum, the dad, and their child. That was like one of their first big killings.
Well, the killings that you don't really have, mainly they were killing families to, get the woman on her own, and then for Project Miranda, Operation Miranda, whichever you want to call it, to keep them in the room that they had, which we'll get to in a minute, to keep her as a slave. But they sort of enjoyed killing all kinds of people, because they killed 2 families that we know of, men for ID, then there was women that they killed, but they also killed 2 gay men as well, which...
As a politically liberal person,
Yeah.
I approve of their open door policy to murders.
I'm a murderer, but I'm not homophobic. So
say what you like about me.
It's quite just the range of victims. But the fact seeing your neighbour burying a body, you'd be like, oh shit, mobile phones don't exist, so I'll go to the nearest phone box and I'll get the police.
I'd fucking walk to the police station.
I'd just get out. You wouldn't want to live next door to these people, would you?
No.
I mean, it's not even next door though.
It's not like they've suddenly, I wish that next door would cut that tree down. It's like, oh bloody hell, next door was burying a body in the moonlight again. Like, take the warning that was a warning shot.
Doing it again.
So when the police came around to this cabin, and in the cabin they found another little hidden room behind a bookcase, and they were like, oh right, okay, and they found a bunker as well, but they realised when they went in the bunker that it was bigger from the outside than it looked from the inside, so they realised there must be another room, but they didn't have a search warrant for it, so they asked Cricket to open it up, and she kicked off and was like, no, if you want to open it, you need to speak to Charles Ng, his friend, and that's when they were asking her questions about him. It turned out that she had already put him on a plane to Canada by this point, because she is a wrong 'un. And so yeah, they eventually got a permit for this bunker, and then when they opened it up, it had this tiny little, basically, cell with a really narrow single bed, a chemical toilet, a window, but you couldn't see out of it. It was just for them to watch in.
There's a sort of a hole in the wall just for ventilation.
And an air freshener. Because if there's one thing they don't like about their woman, it's them having stinky shits. So yeah, they found this little bunker, which is where they used to keep them, and they also had night vision goggles, which just makes everything creepier.
Yeah, it does.
So they could watch them through. And apparently there was a button as well, so you could press that button and you'd be able to hear what was going on in the cell from the watching cell, from the bigger watching cell.
Very similar to a lot of what Fred West did this, but sort of the technology, if you will, the sort of listening things and the sort of mirror. But we'll get to him on a different episode.
You know, he's really had an awful lot.
I know.
Think it's a sign, isn't it?
I'm building up for him.
When Charles Ng was in prison, he was a cellmate with a guy called Mike Carroll, who worked with them for a bit. And they would convince him to dress up, quote, like a sissy. unquote, and lure gay guys back so they could sort of beat them up and steal their money, because everyone knows that the gays are minted.
The pink pound.
So he would dress up and he would lure them back, and then in one of the videos you can hear Charles saying to one of the people, one of the girls, listen, you better do what I say, otherwise I'll do to you what I did to Mike. So generally with the guys and the children, they used to just sort of off them, but with the women they would do all sorts of depraved sexual acts. Well, not depraved sexual acts. Well, yeah, it was depraved. Normal sexual acts in a depraved manner. Who am I to judge? I am definitely judging
Depends
them for
what you're
serially
into.
raping women. And they would just threaten them. Sometimes they would use their children as a bargaining tool, because there's apparently one of the videos is them, the woman going, well, where's my child?
Yeah,
I'm like, no, it'll be fine.
And he says something like, oh, don't worry, he's sleeping sound as a stone, or something like that.
Yeah,
which I don't actually think it's a saying, Leonard. But we know what you mean by that.
A little bit of poetic license there. So yeah, there was videotapes. The police went through them and were obviously appalled. And apparently 15 of the women on it are still missing. They don't know who they are. 6 of them were found alive, which is crazy, because that's
quite interesting.
It's really sad, isn't it? Well, it was weird that they let them go, and why they let some go and not others.
Unless they escape.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But also, that's kind of adds to the fact that just how would you feel that you weren't able to come forward and tell people about that?
So, yeah, that is
creepy,
very creepy. But we have to say as well, the videotapes were made with a video camera from a family that they'd murdered.
Yeah, they advertised in the paper. They said, we've got a video camera to sell, and then they turned up and went, oh, just kill this family while we're here.
Yeah, Harvey Dubb, his wife and baby.
Ugh.
And they went to their house to get the video camera, and then the police went a couple of days later because no one had seen them, and there looked like signs of a struggle and everything. You know, they were like, this isn't right. The family just vanished and the video camera had gone. So, do you know what? If you've got 30 grand to get you... You've had money off somebody, you've had 30 grand to get your mate out on bail, buy your own video camera. Or just get Charles to go down to wherever and steal one. Don't murder a family for it.
I'll be honest, I think the videotape was just an excuse to murder them, Rachel.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that might have been it. But they, another one that a poor girl that they killed was Kathleen Allen, who was Mike Carroll, the one who dressed up like a sissy. Mm-hmm. It was his girlfriend, and she was in work and she got a call from someone saying that the boyfriend had been shot and was dying. So they were going to go meet Charlesing and Leonard Lake. Don't forget, Charlesing is his ex-cellmate. They were like, oh my God, we're going to take you to him, he's dying. So then she just disappeared, and her paycheck was last sent to the cabin of Leonard Lake. So she was another one who was horribly kind of sexually tortured and bound up and horrible things done to. There was Donald Galletti as well, who was a local DJ, who would have been a gay gentleman. He answered an advert in a sex tabloid. Didn't know that was a thing.
Sex tabloid.
There was an advert for oral sex from an Asian man, which is nice and straight to the point, I think. And then Charlesing went round to his house, apparently shot him 3 times because the roommate identified it as Charlesing. There was also Morris Wack, who was a hippie guy, this black hippie guy who was apparently very charismatic. They captured him and fed him to the chickens.
To the chickens?
To the chickens. I hope they weren't eating those chickens as well, because, I mean, when you get stuff like that in the food chain, that's when things go wrong.
That must have taken ages for them to eat as well. That would have fed them for like a year or more.
That's true. Well, they found bits of him chopped up, and then the rest had been fed to the chickens, apparently.
Oof.
They killed a drifter that answered their advert for a van. They're just horrible. They just really, really rattled through them. This isn't in a long amount of time either. That they just were basically torturing women, filming them, saying that they're going to be there in their horrible sex cave to start the world again, while they were killing their husbands and children and burying them. Because they found a massive sort of like a moat that had been filled in around this bunker, and it was full of driver's licenses, clothes,
jewellery,
bones, jewellery,
teeth.
Kids' teeth was the other thing they found. They tried to deny it all. Well, Charles Ing said, oh no, it's all Leonard Lake. But they found drawings.
Charles Ing had done a few drawings, sort of cartoony type drawings of things that probably happened. One of them was him and Leonard Lake tying people to sort of long sticks, carrying them to a bonfire, and throwing them on, and they think that the person was still alive when they were burnt because there's a little bubble coming out of the man's mouth saying, "Oh, you motherfuckers," or something like that. The worst one by far is a picture of Charles Ing with a chef's hat on in front of a wok throwing a baby in it.
Oh my god.
He's sticking to his roots with the method of cooking. But
Ken On's in no hurry to cover that, is he?
But I have to say, he's not got a leg to stand on after this, because I genuinely believe that probably did happen.
Really?
I think he did. There was another instance where it said he barbecued a baby as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So why wouldn't they? They're horrible people. And I think if you've got a woman and you want her to comply with whatever you're doing, something like that.
You threaten a child, don't you?
And also, if I imagine as a mother, if you've just seen your child murdered in a horrible way, you give up.
Yeah.
I think, and you think, well, fuck it, my husband's dead, kid's dead, what's the point? So I think you've got two ways. Maybe you'd fight more, or you just become incredibly not bothered.
Yeah, I do think though that if you just barbecue someone's baby, you'd be in no hurry to put your cock in their mouth.
Yeah, that.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, I would go, well, we won't do that for a few days.
Yeah. Can we give it a bit of time, please?
Let it cool down.
Not in the mood.
Oh God. So yeah, there was obviously all the videotapes of them binding and hog tying and raping women. There was photos as well they found on the wall, 21 photos of various naked girls, and some of them were taken in front of wallpaper, very distinct wallpaper with a cartoon character on. Now this wallpaper turned out to be in the school that Cricket worked as a teaching assistant in. So it was actually like a juvenile school for troubled kids. She'd obviously been taking naked photos of the girls there, which she got a plea bargain in the end, and she was basically let off and is still roaming around.
Well, she gave a plea back and didn't actually give any useful information, I don't think, towards the case.
Just hid evidence and was definitely part of the crimes.
And when you consider what Leonard Lake intended to have these slaves for, which he had a set of rules on the wall of the sort of bunker where the women were kept, and the rules on the wall said, must always be ready to service my master, must be clean, brushed, made up, and the cell must be neat. Must not speak unless spoken to. Don't look your master in the eye. No disrespect must be shown, verbal or silent. Do not cross legs or arms. And the final rule was, unless you're eating, always keep lips parted.
That is baffling, and it's like a weird kind of set of rules that they give to air hostesses on British Airways as well.
Oh, sorry, did you say Leonard Lake? That was EasyJet. Sorry.
Must always wear something orange.
Yeah.
That's
actually,
so
I think
weird.
EasyJet would be less stringent. It'd be a case of like, if you feel like brushing your hair, do.
Put a bit of Batiste in.
But as long as you're here, then that's fine.
What a weird set of rules, especially if he's lived on a hippie commune and then suddenly insists on his women being very heavily made up before he rapes them in a bunker.
The thing is, basically, he just wanted a living doll, basically, didn't he? That you could just do what he wanted with. But the fact that you have to keep your lips parted at all times, and you don't speak, but unless...
They must have all been like ventriloquist dummies.
Leonard, we're out.
Please let me go. Please.
Is that window not open? Don't look me in the eye. That's no.
That's why they could never say, please leave my baby alone, because they couldn't make the bee noises.
It's just sort of horrible, really. But when you consider Cricket, obviously, and I don't care what anyone says, obviously knew this was going on, and she was quite happy for this to be going on. Then, even when she had left him, they were still in contact, they were still friends. She knew everything that was going on. And if you can sit by and know this is going on and say nothing, how she got a plea thing, I will never know.
She's out because Charles Ing is still alive. I mean, he's on death row, but he's still alive. So she's just knocking around so much. She's probably written a book and is a fucking millionaire. But there we go. So yeah, Cricket took Charles Ing. Obviously, ran off after the Vice thing. She took him to the airport and he went to Canada. And now this is where things get really unfair.
And he went to Canada for a very good reason.
Because in Canada, there's a deal with Canada and Mexico that they don't have to extradite people if they think that they're going to be executed, which he definitely would have been because of all the murders. So he got caught because he was in, I think it was Alberta, he was caught nicking soda water in a shop, which is one of the cheapest things in that's what, 38p, and that's for brand name.
Soda water, like just drink some tap water in a public toilet.
Yeah, who is that stuck up there? But I need my bubbles.
I like fizzy water.
Do you know what I think's really creepy? My mum likes sparkling water, but she doesn't like it with the bubbles. And yeah, the best thing about sparkling water is the bubbles. The worst thing is the taste. So she basically drinks flat sparkling water.
Interesting.
Creepy, innit? I'd keep my eye on her.
That's an odd one.
There's no mice in the house either. It's peculiar. So he got caught nicking soda water. He then pulled out a gun when the security guard tried to catch him and shot off the security guard's finger. He then went on the run for 34 days from the vice to when he got caught. He basically got caught in Calgary, and they found a driving licence on him with his name, so arrested him. And then this is where the crazy part starts, because they were trying to get him extradited, but it took till 1991.
6 years.
6 years of him. This is basically, he took the utter piss out of the legal system. So 1991, he was extradited. The whole trial cost, up until he got sentenced, $20 million.
Oh my God.
Obviously, it's cost more since, because he's appealed while he's been on death row.
I mean, that's $20 million in the 90s.
Yeah,
so that's even more now. So, I mean, I don't know how these things, you work these things out, but it's an astonishing amount of money.
Apparently it's a landmark legal case because of how much he just exploited all the loopholes. He'd stalled for time, basically, because he complained about the strength of his glasses, the temperature of his food. While he was being prosecuted, he fired 2 defence teams. He sued over the fact that he was detained at Folsom Prison. He waged a battle over whether or not he should be allowed to do origami in his holding cells.
Oh, please, come on. Like, origami, it's not a right, is it?
It's not a human right.
I'm sorry, Charles, it's my right to, make a paper swan. Well, do you know what? That family just wanted to sell a camcorder. That's all they wanted to do, so...
He's an arsehole, isn't he?
Tosser, absolute tosser.
I hope he was making those, those things you used to make in secondary school that were like little, or primary school, like little fortune tellers where they've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's like, go on, now what colour? You are going to get sentenced to death. Okay, lovely. So he lost that case, actually, the origami place. He was found as well when he was in Folsom Prison. He was hiding escape paraphernalia.
What is escape paraphernalia?
In his case, I imagine that he's made a paper ladder of origami and a little parachute.
Tiny little parachute. Where's he getting these things from? He just... You know what? He claims he's innocent, yet he's doing everything he possibly can not to be put on trial. Because he knows damn well.
Of course he does. He complained about 4 of the judges. 3 of them were removed. He got through 10 attorneys. Some defended him twice, so he would sack them and then reinstate them. He represented himself a couple of times. So he said, right, I'm going to represent myself, but I don't know the law, which is a fucking lie, because he's got through everything else. So they gave him a year to learn the legal system. So they deferred the trial for a year, and then he represented himself. Well, he just learned the law. So he must have been more intelligent than we give him credit for. It must have been that time in that Lancashire boarding school.
That will be that 1 month or whatever it was, just in that boarding school in Lancashire, would have provided him with the skills he needed to be a bloody nuisance. The thing is, when the trial did eventually start, again, he did everything he could to just, sabotage it. Falling asleep. There's a video you can watch it on the internet, and they're talking to someone, "Mr. Are you okay, Mr. Ring?" "I'm just really tired." "Oh, are you?" So he's nodding off. Then
is your conscience keeping you up at night, mate?
He's complaining about the food. What was it? It's too cold or too hot, the temperature of the food.
It's not Goldilocks, mate.
Just whinging about everything. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's no wonder Leonard Lake took that cyanide pill. Because to put up with his shit in a courtroom, he must have known. I couldn't have put him. He's just a bloody nuisance. The worst thing he did, he's on trial, he obtained a phone number for one of the jurors and rang her at home to try and sabotage the trial. And the poor woman there's an interview with her on one of the documentaries, and she's saying, I was a juror, and I used to put it behind me when I came home, but when he rang my house, it was like he was in my house then.
Ugh.
That's really horrible, isn't it? So that's one of the worst, to me, that's everything he did was just sly and just trying to get himself off, because he thought obviously if he rang this juror, the case will just collapse, and it didn't. I think it carried on. But where's he getting these numbers from? How do you find these things out?
there must be sources. It's really you were telling me about one of the members of the family, the people that he killed.
Yeah, the car that belonged to Paul Cosner, because that was the car Leonard Lake was found arrested with, and it wasn't his car. Also, the car was covered in blood spatters and bullet holes in the roof. Sharon Solito, who was Paul Cosner's sister, she, when he went missing, for years and years and years, she kept, well, for months and months, she kept the case going, sort of keeping interest in him, because he went missing. She phoned the police, and they said, "Oh, we can't look for a missing person over 6 years old," or something like that, "but we can look for a missing car."
It's ridiculous.
Which is a joke. So what she did was every month she kept phoning the police and bumping the car up to the top of the stolen vehicles list just to keep it current. So that was one of the reasons when he was arrested, it was very easy to trace the car back to her brother. And she campaigned for years and years and years to get Charles Ng extradited to America to stand trial. Worked really hard with other sort of victims' mothers and families to try and sort the case out and get him to justice. Worked so hard, and then when it came to the sentencing, because Charles Ng obviously was found guilty of loads of murders, I haven't got the exact number here, but we'll just say shitloads. It was really disappointing because in her brother's case, it was deemed a mistrial, so she didn't even get.
That would be one of his loopholes.
It just makes you piss boiled, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you think all that effort and the poor woman just can't even get. I mean, we know that he did it because they were in his car, but just not knowing, it just really sort of.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because they're both like, I'm not like a vigilante or like bring back. There's hanging's too good for them, but they both took like proper cowards' ways out. So Leonard Lake chewed his sign, which can't have been nice, obviously, but like killed himself before he got to trial. Charles Ng is still alive. He's still on death row. Still. Going, food's too hot, and still causing problems and costing so much money. And it's just like, this is, not only is it massively unfair that you ended all these poor people's lives, these fairly innocent people's lives, and now you're just being a fucking nuisance, and you're still alive.
Easy, and I have to say, when it comes to his execution as well, how long is he going to prolong that for? What would you like for your last meal, Charles?
You can eat buffet.
Yeah. It's cold. I don't want this too cold. No, that's too hot. No, I've changed my mind. I want something else. He's going to drag that out for years.
Yeah.
When he gets in, I don't know, lethal injection, I'm like, I'm scared of needles. Oh, I need this. Can you do this? Oh, I'm not comfortable. And that'll be dragged out. The guy is an arsehole. They both
He's going to go to get Nando's for his last meal, and he's going to get unlimited refills, so he can just sit in there drinking.
I'm not finished.
Yeah, sorry, I've still got some. Eating the rice one piece at a time. But I think one of the biggest, this, because apparently after the end of the trial, there was a famous quote in that someone said that the biggest victim in this case is the American legal system, because it had been like flouted so much and just shown up to be like, if you really want to work the system, you can. So it's the fact that, so Leonard Lake committed suicide, has never been made to stand up for his crimes. Charles Ng has just fucked around and cost millions of pounds worth of
20 million. He's the world's most expensive man.
Yeah, he
20 million quid.
Like a Saudi prince, isn't he? Only it's not oil buried underneath his house, it's bones. And which, I mean, if you could leave it long enough, turns to bone, and turns to oil. And the other thing is cricket, who just got off, didn't testify, wasn't a witness.
Nope.
It was definitely implicated in some of the crimes, and is just wandering around.
And neither did the defence or the prosecution called her as a witness, because they both thought she would jeopardise the case. So she got away with it.
I hate it when that happens.
I hate it when that happens.
I
as
like
well.
a bit of justice.
Yeah.
But so I think that's it, isn't it? That's Charles Ng and Leonard Lake. What a horrible pair. But there's sort of a link, I think, we've decided to do for next week, because it's really nice some of you have been saying, can you do this person, can you do that person, which we love. So we've taken a recommendation for the next episode of the podcast. We've taken a recommendation based on your suggestions, and it's sort of related because this is someone who represented himself at trial, isn't it? Who are we going to do?
We're doing Ted Bundy.
Theodore Bundy is next on the list. He's a person, because I've joined a few serial killer groups to sort of, it's been a fucking wake-up call to how weird
it's been an experience, hasn't it?
Yeah, certainly. I've now seen, I've seen enough beheading videos now by mistake whilst perusing Facebook, and by enough I mean one, because that's all anyone should ever see.
There's a fine line between having an interest in serial killers, the macabre and murder, and watching videos of actual death.
It's one step away from putting mice in acid, that's the way I see it. But you will find the thing about Ted Bundy is that ladies love him.
Oh yeah, he's like the One Direction of serial killers.
He really is.
He just becomes whatever the biggest boy band is at the time. You know, he's been the Backstreet Boys of serial killers.
Justin Timberlake.
He's been Justin Timberlake. He's now the One Direction. He's the Harry Styles of murderers. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait, because I don't know much about. I don't know a lot about the mainstream ones. So I'm very excited about Ted Bundy. So that will be episode 8. Thanks so much for listening. We love that so many of you listen to this and enjoy it. If you've got any feedback, you can find us on Twitter at KillNoFillPod. Thanks very much for listening.